can't they understand what I mean by the term egotism? Refusing to listen to what's true, not recognizing natural law, saying that your ridiculous solutions are the answer, and natural law is garbage and has nothing to do with the answer. You see, that's what ego is, the inability to hear and recognize truth. And then you thinking you have it right when you're completely screwed up. These people haven't gotten their mind right. And that's what I'm angry about. I'm angry because people haven't done the internal work. That's what leads to the solution, is changing who you are inside, aligning your behavior with objective morality and truth. These people couldn't give a crap about that in the freedom movement. They think the answer is voting for the next president. They think the answer is some new cryptocurrency that they're going to get rich off of in a pump and dump scheme. That's all they care about. They don't care about what's right or true. It never entered into the equation. They never spoke it one time. They never heard it one time. They're not listening to the right things. They're not asking the right questions. They're not coming to the right conclusions. That's why they're bums. That's why this isn't a movement. There is no even attempt for freedom in the so-called freedom movement. It's a bunch of dumb bums flailing away, grabbing at things in the air, thinking that they're accomplishing something, and they've made zero movement toward reality, toward truth, toward freedom. Then they want to point at me and say the problem's with me because I'm angry at their stupidity and lack of fucking comprehension. Change the way you think regarding your entire worldview, which is to change yourself for the better. They're not doing any mental self-improvement. They don't know how to think. They don't know how to come to the correct conclusions. They don't have the trivium process in hand. They haven't begun. They're the unbegun, just like the Satanists call them. They haven't started the process of self-improvement, and they don't want to, because you tell them that's the answer. The answer is improving upon yourself and how you think and your ability to come to the correct answers. They're not doing that process at all. All they do is point fingers externally. You can't point fingers externally if you're still completely screwed up in the brain and you can't think correctly. That's their problem. That's what the ego is. That's what Satanism is. And this is what I'm trying to explain to them. And they say, I'm not giving you an answer. I'm giving you the totality of the answer. You're just too fucking egotistical and stupid to fucking be able to hear it. And then the problem is me being honest and saying that. That's the problem in this movement. That's why nobody likes me anymore. Well, fuck them. I don't need them to like me. What I do need is for people to understand what I'm saying. You don't need to fucking like me. I don't need to like you. The problem is they are uninterested in hearing how reality works. That's why they won't read somebody like Wetherill. That's why they won't listen to my podcast or presentations. They're egotistical. They think they know fucking how everything works. They don't know shit about how anything works. This movement is the bum fight. This is how tragically awful their thinking, their analysis, their comprehension, their understanding of anything there is related to the truth about how reality functions in this universe. They're street fucking bums. So look at the actual real transgressions against natural law, the real immoral behaviors, which is what we should be teaching everybody and teaching our children. These are the behaviors we should not ever engage in, no matter what we're offered, no matter how much we're paid, no matter how big of a paycheck, no matter what we're promised. You don't do these behaviors: murder, assault, rape, theft, trespass, coercion, and deception, all forms of theft. So, and all direct behaviors that you do against another being, upon another being. Murder, the theft of life without right. Not killing in self-defense. Murder is the theft of life without the right to do so. Assault, theft of bodily well-being, an individual's property, health in their body. Rape, theft of freedom to sexually associate with whom you will. That's coercion, that's violence, that's the theft of sexual association through someone's free will. theft, stealing physical property, trespass, taking someone's security in their living space or in their property, coercion, taking someone's free will without right, and deception. You're stealing someone's ability to make an informed choice through accurate information by willfully sowing disinformation and lies. And that's what the deceivers do. That's what the media does. That's what the social engineers do, to throw us off course and not get us to understand the actual keys to human freedom. It all comes down to one law. As morality increases, freedom increases. As morality declines, freedom declines. Freedom and morality are directly proportional in any given society in the aggregate. That's it. That's what natural law is. And until humanity understands that and spreads that knowledge, expect slavery. Nothing else can result under universal natural law. It's an impossibility to achieve freedom in that state of ignorance of true morality. I've laid it out there in the quickest nutshell that I can for people. If people want to ignore that, they ignore it at their own peril and at their own slavery, because that's what's going to result. And it already has resulted. It's just going to continue to get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse until we get out of the whole political drama, political theater drama, and start talking about actual objective morality and teaching that to our young and spreading that to as many people within the sound of our voice. The only message that I have for humanity is expect more slavery. That's what's coming.
Nature.
Information is what determines how one behaves over the course of one's life. If we're very high information and we've really seen the big picture of what is really going on in our world and how things really work, we can willfully change our behavior, willfully mold our behavior, and have positive outcomes, have good results on the other side. If we don't do that, and we're low information, ignorant people, we're easily led, we're easily deceived, we're easily manipulated, and we're always putting out garbage result into our lives. And then we want to scream and complain about it as if it isn't us doing it to ourselves. The reality of human nature is that human beings are simply programmable. We are programmable beings. So, we are not computers, but we, like computers, are programmable mentally. What we believe eventually becomes our behaviors. So if programmed beliefs can be inserted into the mind like a computer virus, bad output happens on the screen of life. If good coding happens in the mind and we understand accurately what's going on within ourselves and in our environment, then we can put good behavior out into the world, good output. It's the garbage in, garbage out dynamic of computers, often called GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. Okay? Good behavior in, good behavior, good programming in, good information in, good behavior out. That's what we have to understand it as an allegory for, or an analogy of. So we're not computers, but much like computers, if a human being has a bad file system format, which is the conditions during a child's formative years, their formative years. It's like laying the file format onto a hard drive. When we format the drive, we're doing that with our children when they're in a highly programmable state in the first 6.5 to 7 years of life. That's their formative years. Then we might give them a bad operating system. That's our culture that we're at. That's at work in our environment. That's culture, which is the collective belief systems. And bad software, right? If we install badly written software programs into the human mind, then that's erroneous, rigid, and dogmatic belief systems that people just accept as being true. If we put all of that in, what's going to be the output? The output, which is behavior, which is the way of being in the world, onto the screen that we call, the screen is life, our environment, our daily operating environment, is also going to be garbage. If all that garbage programming goes in, do you expect good output onto the screen of life, quote unquote? Or do you expect horrific, tragic outcome? Total garbage result. What do you think is going to be the manifested result? It doesn't take a brain surgeon or a genius to figure it out. Once again, if we're honest with ourselves. So, if garbage goes in, garbage comes out, and the behavior that we output will be bad and will contribute to deteriorating conditions on a mass scale in our world. Similarly, like a computer, the behavior of a human being will largely depend upon its programming, the quality of information that is input into the being, which will enable it to process and create efficiently, if it's good. So if good information / programming goes in, the good result comes out on the other side. If garbage programming goes into the being, garbage result comes out on the other side. When we take this into the aggregate, that's the consequential results that we get societally, worldwide, and that's what natural law actually is. This isn't difficult to figure out for people who step back from their garbage programmed, conditioned response